There's an old saying, any publicity is good publicity. And when it comes to video games, that's been true more times than we can count. Ever since 1997, DMA, later Rockstar Games, has been the center of controversy. From the rise of Jack Thompson, who waged his crusade against GTA and even Bully, to an era when developers kept testing the limits of what a mature rating could mean. But one title took things further than anyone expected. Manhunt. It became one of Rockstar's biggest controversies, a game so brutal, so unflinching, that it ignited debates across the globe. Yet, despite the outrage, it became a cult classic. And if there's one thing Rockstar knows, it's how to double down. So they went back into the shadows with a sequel. A game darker in tone, messier in development, and embroiled in controversy just 2 days after it was announced. From that moment, it became more than a game. It became a battle. Game versus world. Welcome to episode 15 of the Rockstar Takeover. Today, we're hiding in the shadows with Manhunt 2. If you've been tuning in for a while, welcome back. And if you're new here, welcome to the channel. I'm the Retro Phantom, Digital Handshake. Every week I drop videos covering games that shaped us, from Rockstar heavyweights like GTA, Bully, and Manhunt to franchises like Mortal Kombat or Metal Gear. Right now we're in the middle of the Rockstar Takeover, and the lineup is stacked. After Manhunt 2, we've got GTA 4 and the episodes, Red Dead Redemption 1, LA Noire, Max Payne 3, and we're closing out the year with GTA 5. Meanwhile, over on the Saints Row Takeover side, we're wrapping things up with Saints Row 4 next week, followed by Gat Outta Hell in 2 weeks. Now, the best way you can support the channel is simple. Make sure you're subscribed. My goal is to hit 10K subs this year, and we're less than 3,000 away. With YouTube's algorithm working against smaller creators, every like, comment, and sub makes a huge difference in pushing this video to more viewers. And if you're feeling a little extra generous, you can always buy me a cup of coffee. Every little bit helps. With that said, let's dive into this. While GTA 3 was still deep in development, a smaller team at what was then DMA Design started working on something entirely different. Manhunt. The concept? They wanted to create a game that dropped you into a nightmare straight out of The Most Dangerous Game. Now, if you're not familiar with The Most Dangerous Game, it's a story where hunters become the hunted, flipping the dynamic and forcing the prey to fight for survival. That unsettling twist that you're not the predator but the prey was the driving inspiration behind Manhunt's design. The dev team, they didn't want you mowing down enemies with ease. They wanted you to feel desperate, vulnerable, like survival itself was the only goal you could cling to. When Manhunt released on November 19, 2003, it was unlike anything Rockstar had ever put out. According to Jeff Williams, who worked on the game, the team felt a certain way about what they had created. He stated, "And honestly, I was pretty vocal in telling my superiors that while I do whatever they asked me to do, I didn't support Manhunt's release. It may sound surprising, but there was almost a mutiny at the company over that game. It was Rockstar North's pet project. Most of us at Rockstar Games wanted no part of it. We already weathered plenty of controversy over GTA 3 and Vice City. We were no strangers to it, but Manhunt felt different. With GTA, we always had the excuse that the gameplay was untethered. You never had to hurt anybody that wasn't a bad guy. And one of the missions, you could play completely ethically if you wanted. And the game was parody anyway, so lighten up." It should come as no surprise that after Manhunt launched, it was immediately plagued with controversy. Within just 8 months of release, the game found itself at the center of a murder case. In 2004, media outlets in the UK linked the game to the killing of 14-year-old Stefan Pekera by 17-year-old Warren LeBlanc in Leicestershire, England. Initial reports claim police had found a copy of Manhunt in LeBlanc's bedroom. The victim's parents, Giselle and Patrick Pekera, argued that the game had influenced LeBlanc and played a role in the murder. The case sparked a lawsuit that led to the game being pulled from store shelves in the UK, but legally, nothing stuck. Courts ultimately ruled against the family, and Rockstar walked away without any consequences. Still, the damage was done. The controversy solidified Manhunt's reputation as one of the most notorious games of its era. Despite that, Rockstar pressed forward. Not long after the release of the first game, Manhunt 2 was greenlit and handed off to one of Rockstar's subsidiaries, Rockstar Vienna. The plan was for Rockstar North to once again handle the story while Vienna took point in development, but North dragged their feet. They didn't deliver a story draft for nearly 2 years. Then came the real shakeup. On May 11, 2006, Rockstar Vienna was abruptly shut down amid ongoing issues with its parent company and other Rockstar branches. Development of Manhunt 2 was thrown into limbo. Eventually, Rockstar London stepped in to take over. What's worth noting is that Rockstar Vienna had already made significant progress before being shuttered. One of the game's producers, Jerry Hornman, later spoke out on the experience and gave his perspective on the project's troubled handoff. According to Hornman, he will go on to say, "I am disappointed and outraged that Rockstar Game tries to pretend that Rockstar Vienna and the work we did on Manhunt 2 never happened. The work of over 50 people who put years of their lives into the project, trying to make the best game they could. I am proud to have been part of that team. I am sure someone somewhere is going to say that Rockstar Vienna was closed down because our work on Manhunt 2 was of insufficient quality. That's the kind of thing that cannot be proven one way or another. So all I will say is that this was not the case. I do not want to denigrate what Rockstar London did on Manhunt 2, but as far as I can tell, the majority of the work we did at Rockstar Vienna is in the release game, rearranging and modified, but it's there." So now we've covered just how rough things were behind the scenes. Let's jump back into the actual development, marketing, and release of Manhunt 2. With Rockstar London taking the reins, development pushed forward, and within just 9 months, on February 6, 2007, Manhunt 2 was officially announced to the world. Rockstar confirmed it will be dropping on the PlayStation 2, PSP, and most surprising of all consoles, the Nintendo Wii. In an interview with IGN, Rockstar co-founder Sam Houser spoke about the project and what it meant for the company. He stated, "With Manhunt 2, we have tried to create a game that stays close to the original concept of chilling suspense and stealth, whilst pushing the game design and storytelling forward. We are also excited to have our newest development team, Rockstar London, working on the title alongside our 2 established UK studios, Rockstar North and Leeds." It only took about 2 days after the announcement before headlines started rolling in, and as expected, most of them tied back to the Pekera family and the tragedy from 2004. But Rockstar stood firm. They wanted Manhunt 2 to secure a mature rating and made it clear who the audience was meant to be: fans of psychological thrillers and urban horror. Rockstar went on record saying, "We respect those who have different opinions about the horror genre and video games as a whole, but we hope they will also consider the opinions of gamers. Rockstar submits every game to the appropriate bodies for rating and classification. In the case of Manhunt 2, it is clearly a game aimed at an adult audience, and we anticipate it will receive an 18+ rating." Of course, it was only a matter of time before Rockstar's longtime nemesis resurfaced, Jack Thompson. For those unfamiliar, Jack Thompson was an American lawyer and activist who became infamous in the early 2000s as an outspoken critic of violent video games. He targeted Rockstar relentlessly, whether it was Bully, which I've already covered here on the channel, or later GTA 4, which I'll soon be covering on the channel. And now, with Manhunt 2 on the horizon, Thompson found his next battleground. On February 23, 2007, he launched his campaign to have the game banned, once again citing the 2004 murder case as justification. In an article called Jack Thompson vs. Manhunt 2, it was stated, "The original Manhunt was responsible for the bludgeoning death of a British youth by his friend who obsessively played the game. The killer used a hammer just in the game he played. Take-Two, Rockstar, anticipating the firestorm criticism with the release of the Murder Simulator sequel, is lying to the public on both sides of the pond and stating this week the game had nothing to do with the murder. Take-Two was also stating that the sun does not rise in the east because Take-Two makes no money from its rising in the east. Take-Two has been repeatedly found in the U.S. by the federal government to be guilty of fraud, so what would one expect it to say?" Now, of course, you may wonder if this will start to turn gears according to the comments of this article. Many people would side against him. Why can't that idiot blame the parents? I mean, they are the ones who buy their kids 16, 18 plus games, and parents who support him are damn hypocrites. He's talking bullocks. Manhunt was an intelligent mockery of the state of entertainment, ending up by you killing the producer of the outrageous reality show. Also, the kid was not murdered by his friend who was obsessed with Manhunt. The kid who got murdered was obsessed with Manhunt, not the kid who killed him. So really, it's slightly ironic. Stupid parents for letting him play an 18 game. Jack Thompson, at it again, tis tis. This time, Public Enemy #1, Manhunt 2. What I don't understand is why can't there be R-rated movies but no R or A-rated games? We are living in a society where censorship and security is the future, and it will only get worse. There's something rotten in Denmark, and it's right here in America and all over the world. This guy is a threat to the gaming community. He wants to censor everything. I grew up playing Mortal Kombat where I was rewarded for tearing a guy's head off, and yet I haven't gone nuts and killed people. The responsibility lies on the parents, not on the government. If they took the time to talk with their children instead of letting video games and TV babysit them for you, you wouldn't see these horrible things happen. I guess it's easier for parents to let the government censor everything than for them to actually be good parents. That statement from Jack Thompson sparked a new debate. Were parents truly more to blame than the games themselves? Take a comment down below if you believe this. Regardless where you stood, one thing was clear. Jack Thompson wasn't letting go. He doubled down.
Manhunt 2, coming to a screen near you. It is a new video game full of brutal killings. It's so vicious that the UK just banned it. Well, should we outlaw it too, or let the free markets decide if it lives or dies? Anti-violence activist Jack Thompson joins Jonathan for the debate. Jack, you say no reason for this game, just to stop selling it.
Well, I think this is maybe the one game that ought to be banned outright. That, as you said, that's happened in the UK. We've got 3 layers of fraud going on here with the video game industry and the Entertainment Software Rating Board that rates the games in this country. And magically, this game went from an adults only to a mature rating, and there wasn't enough time to really redo the game, but they, in effect, got the mature rating, which means it'll be sold, frankly, to kids of all ages. The ESRB is owned by the industry. It doesn't even play all of the game to determine the rating. And we know from the Federal Trade Commission that the games are routinely sold about half the time to kids underage. My son did 2 stings a month ago on Target and Best Buy and was able to walk in. He did it with me, Jack, and buy 2 mature games.
Jonathan?
Well, let me ask you a question. What do you spend more time reading, Jack, your Bible or the Constitution?
Oh, the Constitution.
Well, I hope so, because
when I need to, I wonder if we could stay away. I wonder if we could stay away from the ad hominem arguments. What you don't understand is that children are a protected class in this country. You can't sell pornography to children.
The game is unsold to children, Jack.
Of course,
you say this is the one game we
Jonathan, it's being sold online to children of all ages right now at Amazon.com, at BestBuy.com, and you don't know that?
So you're in favor of the Constitution. You're in favor of protecting free speech. But this is the one game that we really should ban. So, yes, I believe in free speech,
the
except
industry,
for my list.
The industry cannot, the Federal Trade Commission has shown, enforce its own age rating policy.
Well, what about the parents, Jack? What about the parents? What about them enforcing the kind of house that they want to have? What about them deciding if they want their kids to have a game?
Nice, Jonathan. But kids go to other kids' homes, and they're going to see this game if it's out there. You can't keep your kids from going to their friends' houses.
Yeah. Terry, it's not just that. A kid can walk into Walmart with no parent in sight, and the clerk will sell it to him. So that's not parental control.
Well, whose house is the kid bringing it back to, Jack? I mean, it's not the game programmer's fault. And a lot of people play violent video games. A lot of people watch pornography. It doesn't mean they go out and kill people. And if I'm playing a video game, I don't care how violent or distasteful you might think it is, I'm not violating anyone else's rights. And that's the responsibility of the government.
Jonathan, that sounds good, except the American Psychological Association found in its official findings in 2005 that violent video games, in fact, make adolescents and teens more aggressive. So you can say that, but the science is all on our side of the issue.
All right, we're going to give you the last word there, Jack. Thank you.
Thompson was practically praying for Take-Two's downfall. Lawsuits flew back and forth, each side digging in. Eventually, the dispute was settled before going to court. Thompson agreed not to sue, threatened to sue, or an attempt to block the sale or distribution of any Take-Two game. He also agreed not to contact Take-Two or any retailer selling their titles with accusations of wrongdoing. In exchange, Take-Two dropped its own lawsuit, which had accused Thompson of contempt of court over his failed attempt to ban Bully back in 2005. But Manhunt 2 was walking into a storm that no settlement could calm. This wasn't just a PS2 or PSP release anymore. Rockstar was also bringing the game to Nintendo Wii. And that's where the controversy skyrocketed. Unlike traditional controllers, the Wii relied on motion controls. Suddenly, critics began painting it more than a game. They called it a training device. The idea of players physically mimicking execution with the motion controller was all Fox News needed to jump back into the conversation, fanning the flames even further.
Now to this video game, so horrifying it has been banned in Great Britain. It is now set to be released here in the U.S. on Halloween. It is called Manhunt 2, and we must warn you, there is nothing about this that is not disturbing. Manhunt 2 allows gamers to take on the role of a mental institution escapee who goes on a killing rampage. Not just that, but when you play this game on Wii, as opposed to Nintendo or PlayStation, you actually do the stabbing. So you grab the knife, you are over your victim, plunging the knife into the victim as you play the game. Now, the U.S. version is slightly less violent than the original that was banned, but if Great Britain found the toned-down game unacceptable, how concerned do parents here need to be? Joining me now is Ted Fair of the Christian Film and Television Commission. Ted, there is a very big industry for this type of game. They say, hey, if people want it, we're going to provide it. But many family groups here are outraged. Should they be?
They should be outraged because a certain number of children, not all children and not all teenagers who play the game will be susceptible to it, but a significant proportion, those that are susceptible to violence, especially when they're in those teenage years or childhood years, that they're more inclined to copy the behavior, to build the scripts of behavior. That becomes their scripts of behavior for later life. So it is extremely dangerous, and it's hard to identify who's going to turn out to be the Michael Cho or the Columbine, one of the people that's going to be just pushed over the edge by a game like this. The more direct it is in terms of providing, just as you intimated in your introduction, the actual event of killing, the more likely it is to become a scripted behavior. And we know from all the studies at University of Santa Barbara that what you got to do is when you have malicious behavior, you got to refute it immediately.
Right. You shouldn't be practicing it and encouraging it in a video game. But, you know, the manufacturer says, look, this has been given this rating. You should not be able to buy it or play it if you're under age 17. Do you believe that will work?
It never works. In fact, that's just like a blinking red light saying, come and get it. We knew that a while back in terms of theatrical movies, that movies that had the NC-17 or whatever were magnets. So, under the Clinton administration, the previous administration, there was an effort to say, we're going to card people, movie theaters.
Right. It doesn't work out.
Well.
Let me just finish on, because I want to ask you something. Those full screens we had with the guy with the axe over his head and with the hammer over his head. Again, so our viewers know, there will be kids playing this game. They will have the axe. They will be holding the axe and bringing it down on their victim. That's how this will work when played on Wii. Let me tell you what the manufacturer, Rockstar Games, says about this. So we've got them on record. The Rockstar team has come up with a game that fits squarely within the horror genre and was intended to do so. It brings a unique, formerly unheard of cinematic quality to interactive entertainment and is also a fine piece of art. Their view is, hey, this may be creepy, it may be scary, but it's no different than a really creepy, scary horror flick, and people should have the right to go and use it if they want.
This is not only ridiculous, but it's just abhorrent. If a person had a propensity toward heroin use, let's say, do you give the child heroin? If they have a propensity to some other behavioral problem, do you give them the problem? Do you give them the knife if they have a propensity to violence? This is absolutely absurd. And the manufacturer, I'm sure, is saying this, hoping that he's going to be carrying money all the way to the bank by exploiting the worst tendencies in society.
Yeah, well, it gets released on Halloween.
And remember, the name of this video is Game versus World. The battle was far from over. Next, Manhunt 2 was flat out rejected in the UK. The British Board of Film Classification, the BBFC for short, refused to give the game a rating, effectively banning its sale across the country. David Cook, who was in charge of the BBFC at the time, released a lengthy statement justifying the decision. In his words, "Rejecting a work is a very serious action and one which we do not take lightly. Where possible, we try to consider cuts or, in the case of games, modifications, which remove the material which contravenes the board's published guidelines. In the case of Manhunt 2, it has not been possible. Manhunt 2 is distinguishable from recent high-end video games by its unrelenting bleakness and callousness of tone in an overall game context which constantly encourages visceral killing with exceptionally little alleviation or distancing. There is a sustained and cumulative casual sadism in the way which these killings are committed and encouraged in the game. Although the difference should not be exaggerated of the fact of the game's unrelenting focus on stalking and brutal slaying and the sheer lack of alternative pleasures on the offer to the gamer, together with the different overall narrative context, contribute towards differentiating this submission from the original Manhunt game. That work was classified 18 in 2003 before the BBFC's recent games research had been undertaken and was already at the very top of what the board judged to be acceptable in that category. Against this background, the board's carefully considered view is that to issue a certificate to Manhunt 2 on either platform would involve a range of unjustifiable harm risk to both adults and minors within the terms of the Video Recordings Act. And according to that, its availability, even if it's statutorily confined to adults, would be unacceptable to the public. Surprisingly, Rockstar respected the BBFC's decision, though they made it clear they were disappointed. But if things were bad in the UK, they were about to get worse in the US. When the ESRB reviewed Manhunt 2, the verdict came back harsh, an adults-only rating. And that rating was basically a death sentence. Walmart, Target, GameStop, none of them would touch an AO game. And beyond retailers, the bigger issue was the platform holders themselves. Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft all had strict policies in place for forbidding adults-only rated titles on their systems. GameSpot summed it up at the time, reporting, GameSpot has confirmed with Nintendo and Sony that one of those options, which would be able to accept the ESRB's judgment and release the game with an AO rating, isn't an option at all. Both companies forbid licensed third-party publishers from releasing games rated AO for adults only on their various hardware platforms. Though Manhunt 2 isn't slated for any Microsoft systems, the company also confirmed that it does not allow AO-rated titles on the Xbox or Xbox 360. Rockstar was at a stalemate. The game couldn't launch as it stood, so the team made cuts, toning down executions, adding visual filters, and censoring the violence enough to try and squeak by. In August 2007, Rockstar resubmitted Manhunt 2 to both the ESRB and the BBFC. The ESRB accepted the changes, granting it an M rating on August 24th. But even then, the controversy didn't die. Many U.S. senators blasted the decision, claiming parents could no longer trust the rating system. Senators Hillary Clinton, Evan Bayh, Sam Brownback, and Joe Lieberman went as far as to deem that the ESRB overhaul its entire process. Clinton herself wrote a direct letter to the ESRB president, Patricia Vance, saying, Manhunt 2 was sanctioned by Nintendo for its Wii system. That system permits children to act out each of the many graphic torture scenes and murders in Manhunt 2 rather than simply manipulating a gamepad. This led to one clinical psychologist to state that the realistic motions used within the Wii mean that you're basically teaching a child the behavioral sequences of killing. While this was not cited as a reason for the BBFC decision, we do believe that the ESRB should take the Wii Remote controller and future advances in the game controllers, which create more realistic gaming environments, into consideration. Another disturbing aspect of this saga is that the AO version ended up being leaked to the internet, thereby circumventing the rating restrictions. News reports state that the leak came from a Sony employee who's reportedly fired, rather than the game manufacturer. Nevertheless, the possible use of the internet to circumvent the ESRB and permit broad access to kids is another concern. Unfortunately, for Rockstar, Patricia Vance made it clear that the ESRB had no intention of explaining how or why the rating had been downgraded from an AO to mature. Transparency wasn't on the table. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the BBFC refused to budge. Even after Rockstar resubmitted the censored build, the board stood firm and kept the ban in place. For a while, it looked like Manhunt 2 would never see the light of day in the UK. But Rockstar didn't give up. After multiple appeals, the UK's Video Appeals Committee finally overturned the BBFC's ban. Their ruling was blunt. The censored version of Manhunt 2 depicts no greater violence than any other release in Britain bearing an 18 certificate. As one article at the time put it, after a termless history of appeals, and more appeals, the British High Court has finally lifted the ban on Rockstar's controversial title, Manhunt 2. The PS2 and Nintendo Wii versions of the game have been cleared for release in the UK and will carry an 18 rating. The Video Appeals Committee has stood its ground regarding the release of the censored version of Manhunt 2, stating that it depicts no greater violence than any other release in Britain bearing an 18 certificate. The British Board of Film Classifications has finally seen the light, so it seems, and recognizes that the title will indeed land on shelves without further interruption. With both the ESRB and BBFC finally on board, Rockstar believed they were finally on the right track for release. But internationally, Manhunt 2 proved just as controversial, if not more. The game was banned outright in Germany, Malaysia, New Zealand, and South Korea. In Ireland, the Film Classification Office initially rejected the game entirely, calling it gross, unrelenting, and gratuitous violence. Only the censored version was later allowed, released under a PEGI 18 rating. In Italy, the Minister of Communications, Paolo Gentiloni, publicly expressed a desire to see the game banned, though no official ban came into effect. And in Australia, where the original Manhunt had already been banned, Rockstar didn't even bother submitting Manhunt 2 for classification, knowing it would never pass. That decision left the game effectively banned there as well. Like I said, This was a game versus the world. So after years of delays, legal fights, and bans across multiple countries, the world finally got a chance. On October 29, 2007, Manhunt 2 was released.
That ain't supposed to happen. We're back online. Thank fucking God.
Oh, shit. Look!
Get some help! Isn't Dr. White down in the psycho section?
We did it. Come on. You want to get out of here? Then come on.
Now, here's a quick spoiler alert as I'm about to tell the story behind Manhunt 2. Now, if you're not a fan of spoilers, please advance this video to the gameplay overview section as seen on the timeline below. Let's dive into this. Our story begins inside the Dixmoor Hospital for the Criminally Insane. A thunderstorm knocks out the security systems, doors swing open, and suddenly the most dangerous patients in the asylum are roaming free. In the middle of this chaos, we meet Daniel Lamb, confused, disoriented, and suffering from memory loss. He doesn't know why he's here or what's been done to him. Daniel isn't alone, though. He's guided by another inmate named Leo Casper, a voice in the darkness who quickly becomes both an ally and an instigator. Leo pushes Daniel to survive by any means necessary, and it starts with a syringe on the ground. Daniel's first real test isn't a fellow inmate, it's a nurse. The hesitation is clear. Daniel doesn't want to do it. But with Leo's urging, he goes through with the kill, immediately vomiting afterwards. It sets the tone for the rest of the story. Daniel is caught between morality and survival, while Leo thrives on violence. From there, the asylum transforms into a nightmare gauntlet. Wheelchairs come canarying through the hallways, inmates lunge out of the shadows, and deranged figures shuffle through the darkness. Daniel learns quickly that hiding in the shadows is the only way to stay alive. With Leo's voice in his ear, he begins taking out guards, shutting down cell doors, and fighting his way towards an exit. Eventually, after a brutal series of encounters, Daniel makes his escape. He leaps through a window into the storm outside, where Leo directs him to a trash truck waiting nearby. But freedom doesn't come easy. To make it out, Daniel must kill 2 more asylum staff and hide their bodies in the shadows. Only then can he finally climb in the truck, marking the end of this bloody introduction and the start of his descent into madness. After the ride, Leo starts to inform Danny of why they're in this new area.
We got much time. We have to get to the house.
Wait a minute. I used to live around here.
Not anymore, Danny, but there's something in that house we need. Something you left for yourself. We've got to be quick. This is the first place the project will look for us.
Wait, how do you know all this?
Danny, listen. It's a manhunt, and they won't stop until we're both dead. Come on. Let's go.
From here, Daniel slips deeper into the facility, eventually finding a crowbar, crawling beneath a broken fence and scaling a wall that leads him back to a familiar place, his old home. Leo urges Daniel to search inside, claiming the house holds medicine that can clear his head. Breaking the lock with the crowbar, Daniel enters the dark, crumbling halls, haunted by visions of his wife and children. In the basement, he must search through cabinets and trunks for the medicine, only to learn the real prize, a syringe, waits upstairs. By this point, he's being hunted by watchdogs, one on each floor, and it's up to Daniel to stalk them or improvise killing them, whatever they can scavenge. Once the syringe is recovered, Daniel reunites with Leo, only to be forced into another test. He's got to eliminate another watchdog. After this, he injects a syringe. Daniel temporarily silences the voices and hallucinations plaguing him. Among his belongings, he also finds a matchbox, a cryptic clue he left himself, marked with the address of a strip club. With no memory of why he left it, Daniel decides there's more to this story.
Go ahead.
Leo?
That's right. But we don't have time to reminisce. Getting out was just the beginning, Danny. The project can't let us live. They can buy a private army if they want to, and they will.
Why did I leave myself these?
Daniel's search for answers takes him to Le Papillon Lounge, a strip club tied to the project. Leo tries to persuade him from going inside, insisting that the past doesn't matter and that digging into old memories will only get them both killed. But Daniel can't let go. He needs to know the truth. His obsession nearly gives them away, and the two are forced to sneak deeper inside. The club itself is run by a group called the Pervs, a sleazy faction that recruits victims through the nightclub, only for them to vanish into the project's experiments. Leo describes them as pure filth, warning Daniel that they tear him apart in a heartbeat. Still, Daniel presses forward. The pounding music hides their presence, allowing him to slip through the club unnoticed. Inside, Daniel begins to experience fragmented flashbacks triggered by the atmosphere. The lights, the noise, the dancing, it all stirs blurred memories of a woman named Judy. Convinced she's here, Daniel follows the trail deeper, but the Pervs aren't easily bypassed. Daniel arms himself with a fire axe and brutally cuts down the opposition, even going so far as to disguise himself with the severed head of a guard to gain access to the dungeon, a hidden area where the Pervs indulge in their worst exercises. What Daniel finds inside is horrifying. Victims are tortured with saws and stun prods, while masked Pervs stand and watch. To move forward, Daniel is forced to methodically eliminate them, one by one, until he finally clears the cells and opens the door to the way out. The violence is overwhelming, but amid the chaos, Daniel comes face to face with someone who might hold the answers he's been chasing. Judy Cinder, the scientist tied to the project. She recognizes Daniel instantly, and her words confirm what he's feared. His past is buried somewhere in the shadows of this twisted conspiracy.
Come here, Danny.
You know my name?
They'll catch you, take you back.
Tell me what's going on.
It's the project, Danny. They're everywhere.
What's going on? Leo said I should...
You've spoken to Leo?
Without Leo, I wouldn't even be here.
Okay, you told me to give you this. The old safe house.
The safe house? Where?
Above the cinema. Don't come back here, Danny. Please, just let it go.
She's setting us up, Danny.
The story moves into the red light district, where Daniel and Leo argue over who to trust. Judy Cinder has given Daniel hope that he can piece together his past, but Leo mocks her, calling her selfish and manipulative. He insists the project is everywhere, watching them, and following Judy's lead will get them both killed. Daniel refuses to listen. His need for answers outweighs Leo's paranoia, and he pushes forward into the city streets. Here, Daniel runs into the Red Kings, a violent gang that tortures pedestrians just for crossing their turf. Daniel takes them down and uses their tools to press deeper into the neighborhood, haunted all the while by visions and flickers of his fractured memory. In one disturbing moment, a television erupts into a hallucination of teeth, blood, and severed body parts, leaving Daniel shaken but determined to keep moving. The streets aren't just crawling with Red Kings. Corrupt cops also make their presence known, brutalizing gang members with nightsticks. Daniel carves his way through the chaos and stumbles into Titty City, another seedy strip club. Here, the line between reality and madness blurs further, as he briefly hallucinates the headless ghost of his wife appearing on stage, a grotesque reminder of the trauma gnawing within him. Leo growls, increasingly uneasy, warning that the whole area reeks of a project setup. Still, Daniel presses on, eventually entering the Velvet Grove sex shop. Inside, he's confronted by watchdogs, still hunting him down. After fighting his way through, Daniel escapes via a collapsing fire escape, and finally makes it to his old safe house. The building is a wreck, but what Daniel finds inside rattles him the most. The walls are plastered with clippings and photos about his past, including a picture of him fishing with a man named Michael Grant. The memory floods back in a flashback, pushing Daniel closer to the truth about who he was before the project and what they did to him.
I'm sorry, Danny, but it's gotta be this way. The Pickman Bridge! Remove it. Get it out of my head so I can think straight. If you thought I would do that, you're out of your fucking mind. Michael? Where are we?
All units into position. Terminate both targets. Repeat, both targets.
What? Not both targets, not me, you fucking assholes!
They're gonna be here any minute. Mike's still got the keys. We're gonna have to find him.
Wait.
As Leo takes control, the sequence shifts into a darker, more chaotic battle. Mercenaries pour into the facility from every direction, armed to capture or kill, while Michael desperately tries to stay ahead. The factory itself becomes a weapon. Grinding machines, collapsing structures, and brutal executions turn the industrial setting into a gauntlet of blood. Michael does everything he can to slow Leo down, even firing flares in his direction, but the malicious net closes tighter. Eventually, the chase spills into the rooftops, where Michael makes his last stand. Under the pounding of gunfire and blinding flares, Leo corners him at a dead end. The confrontation ends with Michael's death, and Leo finally claims the boat keys that represent their only way out. But the escape is anything but clean. A project helicopter, the Bloodhound Maverick, rains bullets down on the factory, forcing Leo to fight his way back through waves of mercenaries to the harbor. After cutting down the last of the project's soldiers, Leo seizes Michael's boat and escapes into the night, though it's clear this battle has only brought him and Daniel a little more time. Back from the flashback, Daniel changes clothes and gets another clue. Armed with a pair of revolvers, Daniel blasts his way into a theater. Inside, the crumbling halls echo with danger as watchdogs sweep the building, hunting him down with revolvers and shotguns of their own. The place is littered with gravel piles, forcing Daniel to move carefully. Every sound could give away his position. The pursuit eventually leads to the porn theater itself, where Daniel gets his first taste of firearm executions, dispatching a distracted guard in front of the glowing screen. But there's no time to breathe. As soon as he enters the auditorium, a full ambush is waiting. Armed watchdogs storm the cinema in waves, and Daniel is forced into a brutal firefight, ducking behind the rows of seats as bullets tear through the empty theater. After the smoke clears, Daniel's frustration boils over. He hurls his revolver aside in anger and stumbles back onto the streets. Still searching for Judy, exhausted, he collapses outside a brothel where nightmares of his past career and broken family seep back into his mind. The line between memory and madness continues to blur, and Daniel is left haunted as he edges closer to uncovering the truth.
What do you mean you volunteered for an experiment? You can't play God with your own mind.
We've tested it. It's safe. It's just the final part of the process.
You're gambling with your life. What about me and the kids?
Look, if it's a success, we can clear all our debts and start a new life.
Turning yourself into a psycho? What are you thinking?
This is a real chance to change the course of medical history.
Stop fighting!
What's wrong, Mom?
Come here, honey.
Son, we still love each other.
You're asking too much of us, Danny. Of yourself.
What does psycho mean?
It just means someone who thinks differently.
Can't you see that you have to put your family first?
I am putting them first. If this all works out, we'll be providing for our great-grandchildren.
This is so wrong, Danny.
Project Danny, they're
His
everywhere.
conditioning has fractured. He's unstable.
Daddy, what's wrong?
You can wake up now, Daniel.
I said wake up!
Judy?
I don't believe this shit. Danny, this is crazy. She's no use to us.
She knows more than she's saying. I've got to talk to her again.
Shaken awake by Leo, Daniel presses forward into the brothel despite his partner's protests. Leo insists Judy's sender can't be trusted, but Daniel won't let go. Inside, the tension escalates when the receptionist quietly tips off the project, unleashing waves of Johns and watchdogs through the building. Daniel carves a bloody path through the brothel halls and hidden ducts, pushing deeper until he finally spots Judy making her escape. The chase ends on the rooftop after overhearing her frantic call with Dr. Pickman, where she tries to quit the project outright. Daniel corners Judy at last. For the first time, the scientist who once guided his work is forced to confront the man whose life she helped unravel.
There she is.
Stay away from me!
No! I need to talk to you!
I can't trust Leo.
Don't listen to her, Danny.
I've helped you all I can, Danny. Don't trust anybody, especially...
No!
It's the project! Move!
No!
It's okay.
No!
It's okay, I've got you. Come on.
The story then cuts back 6 years earlier, pulling us deeper into Daniel's buried past. Outside the project offices at the plaza, chaos erupts as a group of militia mercenaries rush to secure the area after an investor is assassinated. Inside the building, we see the killer, Daniel Lamb himself, calm behind the scope of a sniper rifle. With Leo guiding him, Daniel confirms the target is dead, but their escape is quickly compromised when mercenaries spot his position and a police helicopter sweeps in to flush them out. What follows is a desperate retreat. Leo takes up Daniel's rifle, blasting his way through the corridors as mercenaries close in from every side. Lights are shattered to create pockets of shadow, turning the office into a hunting ground. Their escape route leads to a window cleaning platform, rising them up towards the rooftop as the police Maverick circles the skyline. From there, Leo is forced into a running gun battle across construction scaffolds and half-finished towers, dodging searchlights and silencing snipers in the night. Eventually, he carves a path down through another building under construction, mowing down one last squad of Project Mercs. At ground level, Leo and Daniel vanish into the sewers, slipping away from the plaza and into the shadows, securing their escape, but leaving behind the bloodstained truth of Daniel's role in the project. After this, we cut back to present day.
No!
There's no time for this. Move!
What's going on?
Bounty hunters, they're after us. There's a price on our head.
My hands!
What's done is done. Come on!
After escaping the chaos of the bee's honeypot, Daniel finds himself hunted through the residential streets of Cottonmouth at night. The project unleashes the Bloodhounds, a ruthless militia of bounty hunters armed with patriots and air support, determined to bring him in dead or alive. Leo urges Daniel forward as searchlights cut through the darkness, forcing him to move from shadow to shadow just to stay alive. The chase drives Daniel underground, through storm drains and sewers, where he overhears the Bloodhounds confirming what he already fears. Dr. Pickman has personally ordered his capture. With nowhere else to turn, Daniel fights his way past patrols and floodgates, pushing deeper into the city's underbelly. Each narrow escape only tightens the noose as helicopters above and armed hunters on the ground close in from every side. Eventually, Daniel claws his way back to the surface, slipping through houses, rooftops, and even an auto shop crawling with watchdogs. Every corner feels hostile, every shadow a potential ambush. The pursuit finally drives him into Watkins' train yard, where he takes out the last of his pursuers. But as he moves towards the gates, a gasoline sign flickers in his mind, yanking him into another flashback from 6 years earlier.
What are we doing here?
There's a warehouse nearby, where the project keeps its old records. We're gonna destroy our past.
You can't destroy the past, Leo.
Come on. We're gonna need fuel.
The memory shifts again, this time to a gas station outside Cortex Storage, where Leo takes the lead. Together, he and Daniel are working to erase every trace of their existence from the project's records. The mercenaries and hired guards in the area become obstacles in their path, but Leo turns the environment into a weapon, using gasoline to trap and burn their enemies as they push forward. Their goal is simple, but dangerous. Infiltrate Cortex Storage and destroy the files that tie them to the project. Inside the sprawling freight depot and warehouse, Leo methodically clears the way, eventually breaking into the storage facility itself. There, they find the records, 2 massive files marked with their names. As flames consume the documents, alarms blare and watchdogs purr into the building, but Leo fights them off until nothing remains but ash. With their past officially erased, Leo reassures Daniel that they're almost free, but words carry a darker edge. Burning the files isn't enough. There's still one last person left alive who knows too much. If they want to escape the project for good, Leo insists that loose end must be cut. The flashback fades and we return to the present.
Keep it together, Danny.
I can't handle these blackouts.
It's all right. I'll take care of everything. Come on, let's get going.
Hello? Where is that idiot of a man?
That's him. That's Pickman.
Pickman?
Back in the present, Daniel infiltrates the facility where Dr. Pickman has been hiding out, and he's guarded by squads of watchdogs. Pickman is prepared for him, giving clear orders to his men. If Daniel can't be taken alive, then at least bring back his head. The entire place feels like a fortress, but Daniel pushes through the security and makes his way into the heart of the labs. Inside the veterinary wing, he stumbles upon the ugly truth. Project scientists are still running experiments with the Pickman Bridge, using animals as test subjects. In a chilling exchange, one scientist points out a flaw. If the bridge is removed from a host whose dominant personality is too strong, the secondary personality is erased forever. It's here that the cracks in Daniel's psyche and Leo's presence begin to make sense. Daniel eventually confronts the scientists directly, dispatching them in brutal fashion and using their own biometric security against them. But Pickman isn't waiting around. He unleashes heavily armed watchdogs to slow Daniel down as he flees deeper into the facility. On the upper floors, Daniel uncovers more evidence of the project's sinister scope. In an auditorium stamped with the insignia of local broadcasters, TVMK, he finds a reel marked for the attention of Dr. White. The discovery rattles him. The project's reach extends beyond science, deep into the media and power structure of Cottonmouth himself. Most disturbing of all, the sight of the auditorium triggers another buried memory. one from 6 years earlier, where Daniel first volunteered for the Pickman Bridge experiment. The walls between past and present finally start to collapse, setting the stage for the truth about who Daniel has become. Daniel's hunt for Pickman reaches a breaking point when the doctor's voice suddenly echoes through the facility. A hypnotic phrase knocks Daniel into another blackout, leaving him vulnerable. When he comes to, he finds himself disarmed and under guard. Even cornered, Daniel fights back, improvising with nothing more than a pen. He kills his captor and claws his way out. But Pickman doesn't stop. He continues to broadcast the phrase over the loudspeaker, trying to drag Daniel back into submission. Desperate, Daniel smashes every speaker in his path to drown out the control the words still hold over him. His pursuit eventually drives him into the morgue and finally back into the auditorium where the truth began. There, Daniel faces Pickman at last. The doctor surrounds himself with protection, but Daniel dismantles it piece by piece until only Pickman is left. Instead of killing him outright, Daniel uses a tranquilizer to bring him down alive. For the first time, the balance shifts and Leo steps forward, determined to take control of the interrogation.
Daniel? Daniel, please untie me.
Danny isn't here.
Leo. Where's Daniel? I'd like to have a word with him.
This is about what I want. I want you to remove the Pickman Bridge.
Think, Leo. If I take it out, what do you think will happen to you?
I'll be free.
No, you'll be dead. Now let me speak to Daniel.
Shut up! Danny's gone.
Shut up or what, Leo?
What do you think?
If you kill me, Leo, you'll be lost forever. Now let me speak to Daniel.
You're lying.
It only takes one phrase from me, Leo. Don't push
Or
me.
what, huh?
What seest thou else in the dark, backward and abysmal time? Michael, is he ready to go?
Motor muscles at rest. Pupillary dilatation complete.
Dr. White, pass me the sample carrier marked Leo.
But we agreed to use the control personality, not Leo. Leo is a killer.
Yes, I know what Leo was. Now, we've got one chance to make this work before they shut this project down.
Okay, Dr. Pickman. He's ready to go.
When I came to, Leo was dragging me out of the lab. He said Pickman was dead. I knew I could never find the key to my past. But Leo said there was another, one last person we could get answers from. We searched everywhere. Days turned into weeks. I was slowly becoming a ghost.
14, 54, 11. Cerebral
Had enough.
No, you can't quit, Danny. There's got to be something in these tapes I can use to help you.
Pickman Bridge is not my work, but the work of doctors Pickman and Lamb. After initial failures,
Dr.
the military
White?
gave
Who?
the project a massive
We're gonna have to deal with her, Danny.
Now, the project is about managing what has become a disaster. One personality in the process of destroying everything it comes into contact.
Daniel's search inside the TVMK studios takes him through a surreal maze of television sets, each more unsettling than the last. He first slips through the backdrop of Frankie and the Freaks, a children's show that hides a disturbing connection to his past. The costumes and props suggest that Carson City's infamous snuff actors, White Rabbit and Pigsy, drew their grotesque identities from characters on this very program, a chilling reminder of how far the project's influence reaches into pop culture. From there, Daniel stumbles onto the set of 5 Past High Noon, an Old West themed show with an ominous undercurrent. The ranch setting, called Heaven's Gate, is described as existing between love, duty, trust, and hate, a direct callback to the same brainwashing mantra used in the Pickman Bridge experiments. For Daniel, the parallels blur the line between entertainment and indoctrination, exposing how deeply the project has embedded its reach into society's subconscious. The sequence climaxes in the studio's underground parking lot, where Daniel battles through bloodhounds amid parked vehicles that explode in the crossfire. After drawing his way out, he and Leo emerge to the open air, only to find themselves standing in yet another fully constructed set. The ranch from 5 Past Noon brought to life as if the show itself spilled into reality. The chase culminates on the sprawling ranch set of 5 Past Noon, where the bloodhounds tighten their net around Daniel. Armored crossbows and spread across barns, fields, and the main house, they transform the set into a gauntlet of death. Daniel claws his way through, slipping into sewers, ambushing hunters in the shadows, and even turning the environment against them, using falling hay bales and collapsing structures to cut down his pursuers. The path eventually leads him through the barn and into the fortified house, where bloodhounds fire from the windows and choke every exit. One by one, Daniel dismantles their defenses until the only path left carries him deeper into the ranch. There, at last, he comes face to face with Dr. Laura White, surrounded by her mercenaries. She tries to hold him off, but Daniel refuses to stop. When the last of her guards fall, the two finally stand within reach of each other. Daniel pushes forward towards the windmill, only for White to slip behind him in the shadows. In that moment, everything changes, and the truth about Daniel, Leo, and the Pickman Bridge is about to come crashing into focus.
Behind you!
Leo? Leo? Leo! Leo?
You can talk to Leo anytime you want, Danny. But first, let's you and I talk.
What's going on?
Do you remember who you were, Danny?
No.
Do you remember the work we did?
No.
You believed we could take a normal individual and implant a second personality, triggered at will. Our intention was to create the perfect weapon, a killer with no conscience or memory. Does he sound familiar, Danny?
Leo.
2 minds in one body unaware of each other.
Wait, That's not right. Leo and I talk all the time.
The bridge malfunctioned early on. We were working to repair the damage when you, or Leo, decided to escape.
I see. How do we fix this?
Pickman thought his mercenaries could destroy Leo. I believe the only person who can stop him is you.
The story then takes a dark turn as control shifts to Leo Casper. Leo insists that before they can ever be free, Daniel has to face one last person. Together, they move through the neighborhood under heavy police presence, slipping past patrols, SWAT teams, and searchlights. Every yard, every garage, every street corner feels like a trap waiting to close, but Leo pushes forward, relentless. Their path ends at the Lamb residence, Daniel's old home. It's here that Leo finally reveals the true intent. Inside the kitchen, Daniel's fractured mind gives away, and under Leo's influence, he murders his own wife with a kitchen knife. The horrifying act leaves Daniel in shock, staring at her lifeless body while still clutching the weapon. It's at this moment that Dr. Pickman arrives with orderlies. Calmly, he promises to erase everything, to block out the memories of the Pickman bridge malfunction and every murder Leo forced Daniel to commit. As Daniel sits numbly in front of the television, staring at static, the orderlies move in to take him away. What began as a desperate search for answers now collapses into tragedy, leaving Daniel broken and fully consumed by the monster inside his own head.
Daniel, you will not remember anything before this moment. You will not remember us being here. You will never speak to Leo again. A little too effective, I feel. Get him out of here. Remove the cameras, torch the house.
After Dr. White helps Daniel recover the truth about the Pickman bridge malfunction, the weight of his memories come crashing down. At first, Daniel hesitates, reluctant to abandon Leo after all the times he saved him, but the truth cannot be ignored. White reveals the fate of his family, showing Daniel horrifying footage of the night he murdered his own wife under Leo's control. The revelation shatters him, forcing him to confront the reality that Leo was never a savior, but a parasite feeding off his fractured mind. Determined to reclaim himself, Daniel willingly enters a deep hypnotic state. What follows is a descent into his own psyche, where Leo has twisted his memories into a distorted nightmare of guilt and violence. In the warped cemetery of his mind, Daniel faces down apparitions of his victims, colleagues, and even his wife. One by one, he silences them, refusing to let Leo manipulate his remorse. The most haunting moment comes when Leo manifests Daniel's wife again, only for her voice to reassure him, telling Daniel it isn't his fault and that she wants him to move on. It's the closure he's been denied since the night of her death. The battle culminates in Daniel's final confrontation with Leo. In a furious showdown, he beats Leo down with a shovel, screaming his own name in defiance, Daniel Lamb, as if carving his identity back into existence. With each blow, Leo's mocking laughter fades until nothing is left. For the first time, Daniel stands as his own man, no longer bound by Leo's control. When he awakens, he's on an empty street, stripped of all his memory, his name, his past, even his pain. All that remains is an envelope with a new identity. David Joyner, 526 Hope Street, Apartment B. Daniel pauses, torn between the emptiness of his forgotten self and the chance of a new beginning. With quiet resolve, he walks into the unknown, leaving behind both Leo and the horrors of the project.
You think it's that easy to get rid of me? I made you.
I could be you, but I have a choice. A choice! And I choose to be me!
Who the fuck wants to be Daniel Lamb?
I do! I do! You hear me?
You see? You can't get rid of me. Can never get rid of me.
My name is Daniel Lamb. My name is Daniel Lamb! My name is... I don't know my name. Your name is David Joyner. You live downtown at the following address. You'll find everything you need there. Good luck. 526 Hope Street, Apartment B.
Now let's get into the bad ending of this game. In the dark recess of his mind, Daniel faces Leo one last time. Guided by Dr. White's voice, he desperately tries to shut Leo out, clinging to the hope that his true self can rise above. But Leo knows exactly how to twist the knife, weaponizing Daniel's guilt, replaying every murder, every moment of weakness. The weight becomes too much, and Daniel falters. In a final surge of defiance, Daniel manifests himself with a submachine gun, determined to fight back, but his anger only plays into Leo's hands. Their confrontation spirals into battle for dominance with Daniel's mind, and Leo proves too strong. Daniel is overpowered, and in his last moments, he feels his identity slipping away. With cold satisfaction, Leo strangles Daniel to death inside his own head, extinguishing what little remained of the man he once was. Weeks later, Daniel awakens in a project facility, seemingly himself again. Dr. White tells him the Pickman Bridge has been removed, assuring him that Leo is gone for good. She encourages Daniel to return to his work, confident the nightmare has finally ended. But as Daniel looks into the mirror, the truth is revealed. Staring back at him is Leo's reflection. Grinning triumphantly, Daniel Lamb is gone, erased forever, leaving Leo in full control, ready to begin a new life wearing Daniel's face.
Daniel. You can wake up now, Daniel. Dr. Lamb, can you hear me? Dr. Lamb, how do you feel? I followed the protocols exactly as you left them.
How long was I out?
You've been out for 3 weeks now. I took the decision to remove the Pickman Bridge. It was the only way we could be sure. We're very keen to resume work on the project. Shall I gather the staff?
Yes. Just give me a moment.
When you look at Manhunt 2, the first thing that stands out is how little it has in common with the original Manhunt outside of the name. The first game was a raw survival horror experience built on the idea of being prey in a sadistic hunt. You weren't meant to feel powerful. You were meant to feel hunted, desperate, and dehumanized, pushed into brutal violence as the only way out. That theme carried a chilling commentary on media consumption and the spectacle of violence. By contrast, Manhunt 2 shifts gears almost entirely. Here, you're not playing as a prisoner forced into a snuff film scenario. You're playing as a test subject, a man whose mind has been fractured by experiments. Instead of exploring voyeurism and society's appetite for violence, the game turns inward. The focus is on psychology, memory, and identity, not being prey. But on the horror of losing yourself, it becomes less about external survival and more about an internal war for control. And that's where the disconnect lies. For many players who came into this game expecting the same tension and themes of the first, Manhunt 2 feels almost unrecognizable. Yes, it carries the same name, but the tone, story, and message are completely different. Rather than doubling down on the ideas that made Manhunt infamous, Rockstar tried to push the series into psychological horror space. In doing so, they left behind much of what gave the first game its cult classic reputation. Where Manhunt 2 really becomes interesting is how it leans heavily into psychology, specifically the idea of memory loss and fractured identity. The game's entire foundation is built on what psychologists call psychogenic fugue, a dissociative disorder where someone loses awareness of their identity and may even commit actions they have no memory of afterward. What's wild is, this very term gained public attention in 1994, right around the time of the O.J. Simpson murder trial. Back then, defense attorneys and media commentators were throwing around psychological explanations as a way to interpret guilt, responsibility, and memory lapses. The idea of someone committing an act of violence but genuinely not remembering it fascinated and terrified the public. Manhunt 2 taps into that exact fear. Daniel Lamb is a man who literally cannot trust his own mind. He's haunted by fragments of memories, guided by a personality that isn't even his, and only at the end does he come to terms with the truth. He killed his own wife without realizing it, and every step of his journey is tied to reconciling with that act. It's less about the gore on screen and more about the horror of not knowing what your own hands have done.
I can't do this. I can't just dump Leo, Dr. White. He saved my life.
Your only way out of this is to focus on the past.
I still don't understand. What is all this stuff? Is this my house?
Yes, it was torched. Pickman's orders.
And those are my kids?
Yes, and they are fine, by the way.
And my wife? What?
This is going to be painful, Danny, but I think you should see for yourself. This will help you understand why you must let go of Leo.
Jesus, Danny, you're scaring me! Danny! Let go of me, Danny!
Danny isn't here. I'll be taking care of him from now on. Gosh, you fucking bitch! You bitch!
This is where comparisons to Silent Hill 2 feel natural. That game used the same trope, a man who represses the memory of killing his wife until the truth surfaces. The difference is, Silent Hill 2 handled it with subtlety, metaphor, and symbolism, letting players uncover the guilt through psychological horror. The town itself was a mirror for Jane Sunderland's broken psyche. Manhunt 2, on the other hand, takes a more blunt approach. It pushes the violence to the front, but the core idea is the same. How far can a human mind go to shield itself from unbearable guilt? Both games use psychogenic fugue as a narrative device, but where Silent Hill 2 is poetic, Manhunt 2 is chaotic and disturbing, reflecting the raw, unfiltered breakdown of Daniel's identity.
Daniel? Daniel, please untie me.
Danny isn't here.
Leo. Where's Daniel? I'd like to have a word with him.
This is about what I want. I want you to remove the Pickman Bridge.
Think, Leo. If I take it out, what do you think will happen to you?
I'll be free.
No, you'll be dead. Now let me speak to Daniel.
Shut up! Danny's gone.
Shut up or what, Leo?
What do you think?
If you kill me, Leo, you'll be lost forever. Now let me speak to Daniel.
You're lying.
It only takes one phrase from me, Leo. Don't push
Or
me.
what, huh?
What seest
the hell
thou
are you gonna do?
else in the dark, backward, and abysmal time?
Michael, is he ready to go?
Motor muscles at rest. Pupillary dilatation complete.
Dr. White, pass me the sample carrier marked Leo.
But we agreed to use the control personality, not Leo. Leo is a killer.
Yes, I know what Leo was. Now, we've got one chance to make this work before they shut this project down.
Okay, Dr. Pickman. He's ready to go.
Another layer that makes Manhunt 2 stand out is how Daniel's episodes and sleeper agent moments strongly mirror the real-world MK Ultra experiments. For anyone unfamiliar, MK Ultra was a top-secret CIA program that began in the 1950s, focused on mind control, psychological manipulation, and chemical experimentation. Human subjects, many of them unwilling, were exposed to hallucinogens like LSD, sensory deprivation, and other brutal tests to see if the mind could be broken down, rewritten, or even weaponized. Officially, the program was exposed in the 1970s, but its shadow still lingers in cultural memory as one of the darkest chapters in American history.
The experiments were sponsored by the CIA, funded by the Canadian government, and handled by McGill University and a researcher named Donald Ewan Cameron. It's reported the medical team used electroshocks and experimental drugs on patients dealing with mental health issues. Lanadine Ponting was only 15 when she was sent by her parents.
I was drugged up so bad, I can't remember half of what they did to me. I bore a son when I was at the Allen. I got pregnant.
Ponting and several other survivors and their families were in court today as their lawyers trying to get authorization for a class action lawsuit. It's the first step before the case can move ahead.
I think there is no question. No one has ever taken responsibility. No one has ever apologized. There was some modest compensation in 1992 without any admission of liability.
The courts already prevented the group from suing the U.S. government. As they argued successfully, the courts have no jurisdiction. The other parties, such as McGill and the Canadian government, argue they can't be sued because the plaintiffs waited too long.
There are many psychological reasons of blockages that just don't allow people to take action.
Judy Tanney remembers how her father was admitted over a neurological pain issue, but came out, she says, with permanent mental health damages from which he never recovered.
He didn't know us, my two siblings. He remembered my mother, but he didn't remember he had children or that he had a business or anything. And he was very detached. That never changed. He never came back to the person he was before.
It could take a few months for the court to decide if the class action can be authorized. And if it does move ahead, the plaintiffs may finally have a shot at getting some closure that has eluded them for 7 decades. Stéphane Giroux, CTV News.
Manhunt 2 borrows heavily from that unsettling backdrop. Daniel isn't just a man with amnesia. He's a byproduct of a psychological experiment gone wrong. The Pickerman Bridge is a fictionalized version of what MK Ultra was chasing, splitting and reshaping identities, creating sleeper agents who could act without conscious memory of their orders. Daniel's flashbacks, where it's the assassination sequences or the moments where he suddenly becomes violent without knowing why, are textbook examples of how the game channels those real-world horrors. The scariest part isn't even the executions or the gore. It's the idea that Daniel is living proof of a mind engineered to kill, then forget, then repeat. What makes it so meticulous is the way Rockstar weaves this into both narrative and gameplay. You're not just watching Daniel lose control, you're playing it. Episodes where Leo suddenly takes over, or where Daniel acts like a sleeper agent in flashbacks, puts you right inside that fractured headspace. It's an uncomfortable reminder that MK wasn't just about experiments. It was about stripping away human autonomy. And that's exactly what happens to Daniel Lam. The game becomes less about the violence you perform and more about questioning who's really in control. Daniel, Leo, or the unseen hands of the project pulling the strings.
Danny? Is that you? What are you doing here? You shouldn't have come here, Danny.
You know my name?
They'll catch you, take you back.
Tell me what's going on.
It's the project, Danny. They're everywhere.
What's going on? Leo said I
Leo?
should...
You've spoken to Leo?
Without Leo, I wouldn't even be here.
Okay, you told me to give you this. The old safe house.
Safe house? Where?
Above the cinema. Don't come back here, Danny. Please, just let it go.
She's setting us up, Danny.
When looking at the bigger picture, it becomes clear why Manhunt 2 drew so much fire from critics, parents, and rating boards across the world. On the surface, it's grotesque. A game defined by execution so explicit that governments tried to block its release outright. But underneath that blood and brutality, the game was also tapping into a very real, very dark history, where illusions, MK mind control, and the stripping away of human autonomy. Manhunt 2 struck a nerve because it wasn't just violent for shock value, it was holding a mirror to America's own sins. The project itself feels like a synonym for the government, a faceless entity running experiments, silencing anyone who speaks out, and hunting down the very subjects it created when they try to break free. Watching Daniel get chased, silenced, and cornered at every turn makes the game feel more dangerous than the first one ever did. Where the original Manhunt had you playing in a twisted snuff film, the sequel painted the entire system as complicit, suggesting that corruption, control, and erasure of the individual weren't just the work of some sadistic director, but of the institutions we're meant to trust. And maybe that's why the game was seen as such a threat. It wasn't only the gore that rattled people, it was the underlying message that authority can be just as cruel, just as manipulative, and just as eager to bury its mistakes as any criminal organization. In a way, Manhunt 2 isn't just about surviving the project. It's about questioning whether the real horror is the violence you commit or the unseen hands that engineered you to commit those crimes in the first place.
What do you mean you volunteered for an experiment? You can't play God with your own mind.
We've tested it. It's safe. It's just the final part of the process.
You're gambling with your life. What about me and the kids?
Look, if it's a success, we can clear all our debts and start a new life.
Turning yourself into a psycho? What are you thinking?
This is a real chance to change the course of medical history.
Stop fighting!
What's wrong, Mom?
Come here, honey.
Son, we still love each other.
You're asking too much of us, Danny. Of yourself.
What does psycho mean?
It just means someone who thinks differently.
Can't you see that you have to put your family first?
I am putting them first. If this all works out, we'll be providing for our great-grandchildren.
This is so wrong,
Danny. Project, Danny. They're
His
everywhere.
conditioning has fractured. He's unstable.
Daddy, what's wrong?
You can wake up now, Daniel.
I said wake up!
Judy?
I don't believe this shit. Danny, this is crazy. She's no use to us.
She knows more than she's saying. I've got to talk to her again.
Now, for character analysis this time, we're only going to be looking at the two main characters because they are the most vital to the story. We're going to start with Daniel Lam. Daniel Lam is a tragic protagonist, one who shares little in common with James Earl Cash from the first Manhunt. Where Cash was a hardened survivor thrown into a nightmare of snuff films, Daniel is a man completely unmoored from himself and unwilling to participate in a psychological war he never asked for. From the very start, we're made to see his hesitation, the sickness after his first kill, the confusion in his hallucinations, and the desperation in his search for Judy Cinder. He isn't a predator, he's a victim of both circumstance and design, thrust into violence by forces beyond his control. At its core, Daniel's story is about fractured identity. He doesn't remember who he is. He doesn't trust his own mind, and his entire existence is filtered through Leo, the other voice in his head pushing him towards brutality. That dynamic paints Daniel less as a monster and more as a tragic case of manipulation, someone whose humanity has been stripped away piece by piece. His violence isn't about control like Cash was, but about survival and confusion. He's constantly fighting against himself, and the game makes us feel that tension in every step. What makes Daniel such an unsettling character is how relatable his vulnerability feels. He isn't a super soldier or an anti-hero. He's a broken man who slowly discovers that he was capable of the very violence he thought he was resisting. And when he finally learns the truth about killing his own wife, that's when his story goes from horror to tragedy. Daniel isn't defined what he does to others, but what's been done to him. And that makes his character arc one of the darkest in Rockstar's entire catalog.
My name is... I don't know my name. Your name is David Joyner. You live downtown at the following address. You'll find everything you need there. Good luck. 526 Hope Street, Apartment B.
If Daniel is the fractured, vulnerable half of the story, then Leo Casper is the dangerous reflection staring back at him. Leo is everything Daniel isn't: confident, ruthless, manipulative, and almost disturbingly comfortable with violence. For a second, it kind of sounds like Tyler Durden from Fight Club. From the very beginning, he acts as both a guide and a corruptor, pushing Daniel to kill, mocking him when he hesitates, and constantly questioning his loyalty. He's not just another character. He's the manifestation of Daniel's suppressed rage, paranoia, and psychosis given a voice and a face. What makes Leo such a fascinating character is the ambiguity of his existence. The game plays with the idea of whether he's a real person or just a projection of Daniel's broken mind. In flashbacks, we see Leo taking control, turning Daniel into a sleeper agent for the project. But the present, Leo is often more of a phantom whispering in Daniel's ear, egging him on with every gruesome kill. In that sense, Leo represents the MK Ultra inspired programming within Daniel, the cold, calculated, weaponized version of him that the project created. Yet, Leo is more than just an alternative personality. He's a predator in his own right. His charisma and brutality make him magnetic to watch. Even as he manipulates Daniel into horrific acts, the final confrontation between them, whether Daniel asserts his humanity in the good ending or succumbs to Leo in the bad ending, isn't just the climax of the story. It's the resolution of their entire dynamic. Leo embodies control, dominance, and destruction, and the only way Daniel can find peace is by either destroying him or being destroyed by him.
Daniel, you can wake up now, Daniel. Dr. Lamb, can you hear me? Dr. Lamb, how do you feel? I followed the protocols exactly as you left them.
How long was I out?
You've been out for 3 weeks now. I took the decision to remove the Pickman Bridge. It was the only way we could be sure. We're very keen to resume work on the project. Shall I gather the staff?
Yes. Just give me a moment.
Manhunt 2 sticks close to the core formula of the first game. Self-executions are the bread and butter, but it does add some new tricks to keep things fresh. Players primarily take control of Daniel Lamb, with Leo Casper occasionally stepping in for certain missions. Both controlled the same, but their personalities couldn't be further apart. The execution system is back, and just like before, it's about patience. Get behind the enemy undetected, hold the button, and the longer you wait, the bloodier the execution becomes. Level 1, hasty kills are quick and simple. Level 2, violent kills are more brutality. And Level 3, gruesome executions. These are over the top, though this time heavily censored thanks to the ratings battle. Depending on the platform, executions also play differently. On PC and Wii, players had to pull off motion or mouse-based quick-time events to complete the kills, which was controversial in its own right. Rockstar expanded the mechanics with environmental executions, letting players use the world around them, whether it was smashing a hunter into a fuse box, drowning them into a toilet, or slamming a manhole cover on their face. There are also jump executions, letting you strike from above, and even the ability to perform executions with firearms. That last part adds variety, especially since shootouts now allow for cover-based gunplay, where headshots turning into some of the goriest moments in the game. Stealth has also been tweaked. Shadows is still the player's best friend, but enemy AI is sharper, or at least it's supposed to be. Hunters can sometimes investigate shadows if they see you slip away, and certain sequences introduce quick-time events to steady Daniel's breathing so he doesn't give himself away. That said, player reviews point out how inconsistent the AI could be. You could be standing practically face-to-face with the hunter and they wouldn't notice for seconds at a time. Beyond stealth, Rockstar added little touches to make the world feel more interactive. You can smash lights to create darkness, climb over obstacles to escape, or flank enemies and use noise strategically, like slamming a door or throwing an object to lure hunters away. Of course, the downside is that sound also works against you. Running on gravel or knocking on something can give your position away instantly. Heck, even carrying an oil canister can put them onto you. When you're discovered, you've got options. Fight hand to hand, run, or try to circle back into the shadows. But let's be real, fists are a last resort. Taking on more than 2 hunters at once usually means game over. From a technical side, the graphics were solid for the PS2 late era. Grainy filters and twitching effects gave the environments a gritty, nightmarish feel, though obviously it couldn't match what the PS3 or even the 360 were putting out. On the other hand, sound design is where the game shines. Creepy music ramps up during hunts, executions are punctuated by distinguishably realistic sound effects, and the acting sells both the main character and the enemies. Though not everyone was a fan, some found the enemy dialogue repetitive to the point of frustration. Replay value wasn't huge. The main campaign runs at about 8 to 10 hours with only 2 difficulties. Beating it unlocks an alternate ending, but beyond that, most players were done after 1 or 2 playthroughs. The elephant in the room, though, is censorship. The infamous red and white filter during executions divided fans. Some say it added to the game's surreal, hallucinatory atmosphere. Others thought it butchered the experience, hiding the brutality that defined the first game. On PC, the uncensored version kept more of the original content, but console players were stuck with the toned-down kills. At the end of the day, Manhunt 2 is a stealth horror game, through and through. For fans of gore and psychological tension, it delivers plenty of moments worth remembering. But inconsistent AI, heavy censorship, and a lack of major resolution from the first game left some players feeling like this was a sequel that survived controversy more than it thrived on innovation. The PS2 version of Manhunt 2 dropped on October 29, 2007 for North American markets, but overseas fans had to wait an entire year until October 31, 2008. This port delivers the classic console experience, sticking with traditional controller-based gameplay and graphics that were modest by 2007 standards. Heavy censorship defined this version, with blue and green filters used to mask executions. One standout feature, however, was support for the PS2 headset. Leo's voice would come through the earpiece, and players could even use their own voice to lure enemies, adding a surprising layer of immersion. While the PS2 port keeps the full narrative intact, it lacks the motion-specific gameplay features found on other versions. The Nintendo Wii version launched on October 29th, 2007 in North America, and like the PS2, it didn't reach overseas until October 31st, 2008. This port stands out for its motion-based executions. Using the Wii Remote and Nunchuck, players would mimic Daniel's kills with swings and jabs. Censorship was handled differently here, using a flashing red filter to obscure executions. Graphically, the Wii version edges out the PS2 and Wii Remote speaker, added eerie sound effects that made kills more unsettling. Players were divided. Some loved the interactivity, while others found the motions clunky and in longer sessions. Interestingly, while violence was toned down, drug and sexual content remained intact, making this version more and less explicit in different ways. The PC port released later on November 6, 2009 for North American markets, and is often considered the definitive version. With higher resolution, sharper textures, and smoother performance, it proved the best technical experience out of the box. Execution used mouse gestures, functioning similarly with the Wii motions, but in a less physical way. Where PC truly stood out was its mod support. Fans quickly restored the censor executions, reintroduced Cut AO rated content, and even improved cutscenes thanks to mods and uncensored gameplay. The PC version is widely regarded as the complete edition of Manhunt 2. The last port we're going to talk about is the PSP. The PSP version also released on October 29, 2007 in North America and October 31, 2008 in Europe. Due to hardware limitations, this port was the most stripped down. Executions were simplified to button holds without motion gestures, and the familiar blue-green censorship filter from the PS2 carried over. Aiming was noticeably tougher, especially with scope weapons like crossbows and sniper rifles, and weapon placements were altered, making certain encounters more difficult. Many features like interactive executions and style points were cut out entirely, streamlining progression. On the upside, portability made it the only way to experience Manhunt 2 on the go. And with modding, players could even bypass censorship to restore some of what was lost. Here's the thing. More often than not, the most controversial games end up being the ones that knock it out of the park. GTA, Mortal Kombat, even Bully. They all had moral panics, and yet they ended up as classics. But Manhunt 2, this was a rare case where lightning doesn't strike in the bottle. According to Metacritic, the game pulled in mixed or average views. Some critics praised it, pointing out its graphic violence and psychological horror story. GameSpot's Kevin Wanlord called it not as shocking as you expect, but Manhunt 2 still satisfies your primal instincts, and even went as far as to say it played best on PSP. Games Radar Michael Rapars said, "If you're in the mood for something creepy and horrific that'll leave you feeling a little dirty, Manhunt 2 still shocking murders and eerie. Is it real, or am I just insane? Storyline won't disappoint." Game Informer scored the Wii version a 7.5 out of 10, praising Rockstar's strong writing and characters, while Nintendo Power gave it a 7.5 out of 10, though they criticized how outside pressure forced Rockstar to change the vision. Yahoo even said the PSP version was the most squeamishly immersive thing in gaming that year. But the negatives hit just as hard. IGN's Jeff Haynes flat out said the game didn't measure up to the original. The AI doesn't feel good, the environments don't feel as menacing, and the story is definitely weaker. One Up was harsher, giving it a 4 out of 10 and calling it technically playable but largely forgettable. Jonathan Hunt from X-Play summed it up perfectly. Without the controversy, Manhunt 2 would be nothing more than an obscure footnote in Rockstar's history. And in 2009, Ars Takana doubled down on that same sentiment, writing that the controversy around the game was more interesting than the game itself. Still, the game carved out its own place in gaming history. It landed at number 8 on IGN's top 10 gaming controversies, was ranked the 6th most controversial video game by Yugo Networks, and Daniel Lam and Leo Casper even made Machima's list of the top 10 criminal duos in gaming history. When you look at how the average player responded to Manhunt 2, you see a very divided crowd. For the stealth enthusiasts, the game delivered what they wanted, creeping through shadows, patiently timing executions, and playing the long game. But for players who came in expecting nonstop action and gore, the slower pace quickly felt like a letdown. This wasn't a game about mowing down enemies, it was about waiting for that perfect moment to strike, and not everyone had the patience for that. What really became the deal breaker for many was the censorship. The filters Rockstar added to tone down the executions, flashy reds, odd blues, and hazy visuals, left players frustrated. Even though you could still hear the crunch of bones and the squelch of blades, you couldn't always see what was happening. Some players accepted this as part of the game's surreal, fractured atmosphere, but for most, it felt like Rockstar had cut out the very identity that made Manhunt stand out in the first place. AI was another sticking point. Time and time again, players describe hunters wandering aimlessly, staring at walls, or walking in circles like they knew their only purpose was to die. That lack of tension took the bite out of encounters that should have felt dangerous. By contrast, the sound design almost universally earned praise. From the sharp, realistic weapon effects to the unsettling silence broken by footsteps in the dark, audio was the one area where players agreed Rockstar nailed the atmosphere. Danny's broken mutters and Leo's snarling commands also added to the paranoia, keeping players on edge even when the AI failed to do its job. Graphically, Manhunt 2 was seen as serviceable, but nothing groundbreaking. The washed-out, grimy filter gave the world a sticky tone that matched the game's vibe, but environments often felt repetitive, and the animations could be, stiff. Combat outside of stealth didn't fare much better. Hand-to-hand felt clunky, and while firearms added variety, some felt the game lost its identity once gunplay started to dominate. Most players finished their first run around 6 to 10 hours, with little reason to go back beyond the alternate ending and harder difficulty. What kept people pushing through wasn't necessarily the gameplay loop, but the story, peeling back Danny's past and uncovering the twist that came with it. Still, once the credits rolled, most admitted the gruesome kills and eerie audio left a stronger impression than the narrative itself. In the end, player consensus was clear. Manhunt 2 had its moments of tension and atmosphere, but censorship, weak AI, and repetition, it held it back. For some, it scratched the itch for a bloody stealth horror experience. For others, it felt like a curiosity that couldn't live up to its predecessor. And that's where the divide really sits. The world saw Manhunt 2 as a threat, a danger that needed to be silenced. But when players finally got their hands on it, many walked away thinking the controversy was louder than the game itself. In a battle of game versus world, the world might have screamed the loudest, but the game struggled to prove it deserved all that noise. So now it's my turn to talk about how I feel about Manhunt 2. And to be honest, I wasn't a big fan of this one. Compared to the first game, it felt like a letdown. What really gets me is that the world tries so hard to stop this game. Fox News, Jack Thompson, even the ESRB, and all that noise only made it more popular. It's the Streisand effect in action. People weren't paying much attention until the controversy shed spotlight on it. And then everyone wanted to see what the fuss was about. But here's the truth. They didn't need to fight it at all because the game itself wasn't as strong as the original. I always give a game a chance, no matter the reputation. And with this one, I found it predictable, overly violent for the sake of shock, and not nearly as engaging. The first Manhunt hooked me because I felt like it was the most dangerous game, and it had came to life. You weren't just a hunter, you were the prey, and survival was all that mattered. Manhunt 2 flips that, and suddenly you're killing people just because. It lost the tension, and with the AI acting unfair and inconsistent, patrols changing based on where you are instead of actual routes, the stealth never felt satisfying. Add on clunky controls and the whole thing just missed the mark for me. And That's what stings the most. Because when it comes to psychological storytelling, I'm all in. I love exploring that idea in Silent Hill 2, where the execution was thoughtful and deliberate. Manhunt 2 aimed for something similar, but it stumbled badly. Still, I always encourage players to form their own opinions. If you enjoyed this game, that's valid. If you never played it, don't let my words stop you. Experience it for yourself. For me, though, this one didn't land. That said, I do respect it for pushing the boundaries. The behind-the-scenes battle, the censorship fights, the bans, the appeals was honestly more impressive than the battle on the screen. And in the end, the game did win that fight. Manhunt 2 may not have been a great game, but it proved it could hold its own, its ground in the larger war of game versus world. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Manhunt 2, hitting that like button goes a long way. Honestly, with a topic this controversial, I have no clue how the algorithm is going to treat it. So if you learned something new or just enjoyed the ride, a thumbs up helps push the video further. Next week, we're back with the Saints Row takeover covering Saints Row 4. And the following week, we jump back into the Rockstar takeover with GTA 4. If you want to stay up to date with everything I drop, the best way is to make sure you're subscribed. And if you like to go the extra mile, you can always buy me a cup of coffee. Everything helps. With that said, this is the Retro Phantom, signing out.